which website did Chewbacca get arrested for creating? That's pretty good, dude. WikiLeaks.
Nice. Nice.
All right.
Although I wonder if that one shouldn't have a not suitable for work tag on it.
Yeah, true. Dude, dude, you've got an impressive Wookiee sound, man. Why don't you do that one again?
Now everyone listening is trying to do a Wookiee impersonation.
I can't even try. Like,
I'm not even going to.
yeah, it's terrible. All right, so we are ready whenever you are.
You're listening to Coding Blocks, episode 37. Subscribe to us and leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, and more using your favorite podcast app.
Visit us at codingblocks.net where you can find show notes, examples, discussion, and more.
Send your feedback, questions, and rants to comments@codingblocks.net. Follow us on Twitter at codingblocks or head to www.codingblocks.net and find all our social links there at the top of the page. With that, welcome to Coding Blocks. I'm Alan Underwood.
I'm Joe Zach.
And I'm Michael Outlaw.
And let's go ahead and get started now that we're back. Outlaw's finished setting up his class in Call of Duty. So we can get to the episode.
That is so inaccurate. That is not a fair representation.
So we got some fantastic reviews from anybody, Salthoth, I don't know, and Skrecker. Both excellent reviews. Again, thank you very much. You guys don't even know how much that means to us, so we very much appreciate it.
And those names, by the way, would also make excellent heavy metal bands.
Skrecker.
Love it. Okay, so this episode, we've actually got an episode up front, or sorry, a poll rather, up front, rather than coming up with it after the fact. So we've got a really important question that we would like to know how you guys feel about, and given the recent movie release, we want to know which one's awesomer, Star Wars or Star Trek?
And does this count for the original Star Trek or also Star Trek The Next Generation?
It's all Star Trek.
Yeah,
the good and the bad.
This is where like the Trekkies are always saying that Star Trek was better because there was so much more of it. Right?
Yep, that may not be the case anymore, though.
Well,
at least, Disney's got like a movie coming out every year. Star Wars.
Yeah, but they got a lot of catching up to do. I mean, Star Trek had how many different seasons of shows? Like there's a lot of back catalog there for Star Wars to catch up on.
There's a lot of bad back catalog.
Oh, I don't disagree.
Wait a second, you're trying to skew the results. We can't do this, guys.
Yeah, I totally a Star Wars fan. I mean, over Star Trek.
No way, man.
Really?
No way. It's Star Wars. It's a bunch of guys like, ganking the swords. Like it's silly. Star Trek, it took on real social issues and made a positive impact in people's life. It opens minds.
He totally doesn't believe what he's saying right now.
Yeah,
no, I'm totally.
Who's
Star Trek, man?
Captain Kirk. Shoot, I can't think of his name. Maybe that's why I'm not as much of a fan of Star Trek.
I can't think of his name either.
James Tiberius Kirk.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
All right, so on to...
Well, no, you just said his real name, his character name, though.
What
You
was
didn't
his
say
real
his,
name?
William Shatner?
Yeah, William Shatner. There you go.
The guy who does all the... what is it? The...
Priceline?
Priceline and the USA or the... oh, God, what is it? The models or... Miss America things now, the pageants or whatever.
What?
Yeah, that's like all he's done in the past decade or whatever. It's kind of weird.
I never watched those, so...
Yeah.
No, man, I'm sorry. Chris Pine has taken the mantle.
Chris Pine.
Chris Pine makes Captain Kirk look good.
Right. Yeah, the reboot's good. I do like that.
I like the new movies. They are good.
We'll give you that. So, Joe, something smells fishy.
Man,
It does.
you know what?
Called out immediately.
This is so frustrating. Like, any other time an autocorrect would just bother you to no end, but apparently I put out a tweet the other day that was like, hey, what's the worst cod smell that you've ever seen, right? One guy's like, yeah, when I forget to leave the things and I leave them out of the refrigerator, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me, man. Really?
The one time you needed autocorrect and it failed you.
It did fail me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was talking about code smell, and somebody brought this up to me the other day, and it kind of drove me crazy. And I want to get you guys' take on this. So it was said that static methods reek of code smell, and I was like, wait a second, what does that mean? Hold on a second. I mean, this is a construct of your language, so. But I guess then again, you could also say
It's like
global
saying
variables.
the plus equal sign is a code smell.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like when
It's part of your language.
and here's the thing, like it bothered me, and so then I went on this, hour or two long. Okay, is this really bad? Because think about like your factory patterns and that kind of stuff. A lot of times those are static methods because you're doing a get or something like that, and so through the reading and discussions and whatever else, I did find it was interesting that the one thing that came back that makes sense more than anything else, and it's really the only thing that I could find that kind of supported this, was if you are using static methods, that means they cannot be interface driven. And so you can't substitute in something. So if you're trying to mock out something like, let's say you're trying to do some test driven development or anything like that, you can't use interfaces to swap in and out like a mock class or something for those methods, because you can't have an interface for a static method. So
Yeah, see, okay, this is in the same similar kind of vein for me as the whole singleton thing, right? Or like the hipster
Yep.
coders, like, oh, singletons are bad, and I feel like this is the same kind of thing. Like, hipster programmers over there, like, oh my god, static methods are bad, and I don't necessarily think that they're bad. Like, if you have a method that has nothing to do with state, right, then why have multiple copies of that thing floating around, right? Like, it can safely be a static method. And even ReSharper, by the way, will warn you, like, hey, this method could be static, right? It'll want to make that method static if it can be. So why not?
yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. Hey, Joe, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think if you aren't modifying any sort of internal memory, if your method can be static, then that's kind of a sign that you're breaking encapsulation by modifying some other objects, data. So it's kind of a sign that you're not doing things very for better or for worse.
Yeah, and that was the other thing, right? So I threw out the one about you can't use an interface for it. The other argument I saw that held a little bit of water was the whole, if you did it in the more OO way, like let's say that instead of, if you had a factory that had some sort of get method on it, instead of making it static, if you had that factory as a true object, you could then extend that factory. So I think we talked about this with the factory, I think it was called the factory method pattern back in one of our design pattern discussions, to where you could have a car factory, right? And then you could have
First you're going to need a hammer factory.
You need a hammer, and then you need a hammer of hammers and a bag of hammers. But if you wanted to take that a step further, and then now you say, okay, well, now we're going to have a Ford factory, we're going to have a Chevy factory. Those can extend it, and now that get method can also be extended. So that makes sense from a true OO perspective. But I don't know, just when I heard that a static method was a code smell, I was like, that doesn't... Like, it was the first time I'd ever heard that said, and it really kind of bothered me because I was like, wait a second. That means you're kind of...
I guess my point, though, is like everything has its place. So
Right.
if you're taking the extreme that, this is always bad, then that's when it's like, no, it's
Right.
not always bad. There may be bad uses of it, right, of a static method, but that doesn't mean that every instance of a static method is bad.
Right, and that's kind of what I was getting at. And that's one of the things, like, I don't know... In programming, people a lot of times like to take a hardline stance on what is right and what is wrong. And that's
We are an opinionated bunch.
Oh, there's no doubt. Is there another career that is more opinionated than programming?
Surgeons.
Maybe. Theirs might be a little bit more factually based, right? If you cut that, he's going to die. I don't know.
I just saved your life, therefore I am awesome.
Interior design.
But, that's just...
Interior design.
True.
You're right, Joe. You got us.
It is true. I mean, plastic surgeons, they just take stuff out. They don't even care what gets left behind, right? So, anyways, so yeah, I don't know.
Not sure how that related. That was a weird transition from interior design to plastic surgeon, but okay.
You know, it's all the
Back
same.
on the rails.
Yeah, sorry.
No, but yeah, I mean, it really is. It's just like the singleton. So you're either changing someone else's internal state, or you're doing something like writing to disk or database or something like that doesn't really affect your application, and which means it's going to be harder to mock because you've got a dependency now that you can't put behind this interface wall. So I would say it is a smell, but that I'm a smelly programmer and I write as many statics as anyone.
I don't know. I think that the use case though that you're thinking of, like where you might write a static, is kind of weird. Like I'm thinking of some kind of a, maybe like a math operation that's not going to change, and you just want some static method to represent that, or to do that calculation for you. Like you don't need that thing, copied over in multiple classes over and over and over. Just have a static reference to it.
Well, that makes sense. Kind of like if you're doing a math type class, right, where you know that you're doing an addition, a subtraction, like there is one and only one way to do those kind of things. So that kind of makes sense right there. From what Joe said, like if you include a dependency to write into a disk or a database or something along those lines, then yeah, that makes a little bit more sense because now you're kind of...
This is where it goes back to my comment there before, where it's like, not all of them are bad, but maybe some uses are, and this could be an example of like maybe that's a bad use then.
Right. So...
Oh man, you guys need to up your hipster game. Haven't you heard of microtypes? Yeah, you should wrap all of your primitives behind a class so you can keep everything truly encapsulated and object oriented.
You are
And I do mean everything. Google this. I'm not making this
You're
up.
kidding. No, hold on a second.
Yeah, this was hot on Reddit like 6 months ago.
So tiny
Yeah,
typing.
I just like that we got to like up our hipster game.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. No, I can't get behind this. And it is truly a thing. It actually comes up in its own little box in Google. That bothers me. Oh, okay. So that was my derailment for the show. I just thought, anytime that something like this comes up, I think we're going to, I think we want to make notes throughout the week when people say things that kind of tweaks your brain and it sends you down some sort of rabbit hole. I think that's great stuff for the show, right? Because these are the kinds of conversations that people have, and it's nice having some context. So,
Reminds me of the Wat duck. What?
What?
So in happier news, we're still doing the t-shirt giveaway. So, as we said on the last episode, Wade was our first winner. And so we still have a gray-ish t-shirt to give away. It's just supposed to be gray.
Why is this gray-ish? Did something land on it?
No. Okay. No. Wow, way to take it to a dark place, man. This is a happy time of
It could
year.
have been a light thing that landed.
It's Star
on it.
Wars season, after all. Happy Star Wars. And so we still have the grayish one to give away. And, again, full disclosure, it has been worn. This is a XX Hanes Beefy Tee t-shirt. It was one of our prototypes for, to see what we liked from this particular company. And so same rules as last time. Leave a comment on this this episode's show notes, and we will be drawing a name at random from the list of names that have commented on in the show notes for this episode, and we will release the winner in an upcoming episode, and look for it on our Vine account because that's where all the giveaway action happens.
Yep.
All 2 vines.
Speaking of slacking,
this will be the third. Oh yeah. So, I may have looked through some old shows and particularly old comments on old shows and realized that we are bad people. So, Nicholas wrote in the show notes for episode 21. And said, how is the renaming with ReSharper different from the refactoring feature built into Visual Studio? And all he got back was crickets because 8 months later and we forgot to reply. So,
sorry, Nicholas.
Yeah.
Our bad.
Sorry, I didn't even see that one, but we'll take a stab at it now. So The main thing that I recall as being different is that ReSharper will also go through commented strings
Oh yeah.
and do the rename there as well. So it won't just be the actual classes that are in use, which hopefully you won't have large blocks of code commented out. But if you have maybe summary documentation that needs to be changed as well, ReSharper will take care of that.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think it might even do variables. Like if you've got a class, say that you're renaming, and you've got you're taking a car and renaming it to a vehicle. If you've got a private variable called var car, it'll change it to var car, var vehicle.
Oh, it's wondering.
That's for Stuart.
Are we talking about like hold on, let's change this. Let's say that the class name is uppercase C car, right? And then your variable will be lowercase car. Would
Right.
that be right?
Yep, and now you're renaming your class to uppercase vehicle. It'll actually search for things like variable names like your previously lowercase car. It will rename that to vehicle. But that and the comments are both you can choose to do that or not. There's like a little checkbox when you do the rename and it sees that sort of thing.
Yeah. So sorry we were 8 months late there.
But we did get back.
I'm gonna go back to from a couple episodes ago. There was a poll about who to blame, and oh wait, that was me. That one backfired.
Well,
Blame it on
see,
Call of Duty.
well, if it's about that time of year, anyways, for resolutions, and Outlaw's resolution was to be better about social, so it is definitely his fault.
Hey, I think I actually okay. Hold on, because this is what took me back to the to that show note in the first place, is because tonight's episode is on our favorite tools, and so we'll be doing similar to how we did it this time last year, right? I'll go over the rules in a minute, but that was how I found that, how I realized like, oh man, we didn't even answer this question. But let me go over the rules real quick. So here are the rules that we're going to have for this. Okay, we each had to pick 5 favorites. Okay, and a favorite could be defined as anything. It could be a website, it could be a browser add-in, it could be an IDE add-in, it could be an application, a mobile app, a piece of hardware, anything tangible or digital, didn't matter. But you can only pick 5. So we each had to pick 5 and only 5. And we had to list them in order from 1 being our most favorite thing to 5 being a normal favorite thing, right? And you can't repeat a favorite from someone else's list. So we each had to pick our own unique list, Alan.
And this is where things get a little hairy.
Now here was a new rule for this year. A new rule for this year. Hold on. Let me interrupt you for a moment there, if you don't mind. Let me just finish my rules. The new rule for this year was that we couldn't repeat a favorite from a previous year. So even if it was your own pick from the previous year, you had to pick a new favorite for this year. All right. Now you were going to say.
All right, so let's be clear here. So Outlaw created this document and
my
happened
God.
to put these rules in place.
I created this document a year ago.
And then after he sends out the note, like, hey, I created the spreadsheet. We got some updated
All right,
rules in there.
we'll get to that.
And then you come in here and you look at his, and all 5 of his picks are filled out. And then in the
Yeah,
rules, it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you can't pick what somebody else picks. So automatically 5 of them were off the board, right?
Whatever. No,
and so
that's not the way it worked.
We're
out.
just going to start this off, and I'm going to tell you that his number one pick,
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. That would not be nice. All right. No, because what Alan's talking about is like if we all picked the same thing, if something was that we all wanted in our 5, then that would mean that it would get moved to the final group of 5 things that we all like. But that means that all 5 of us had to like it.
I was
in
just
order
going to
for it
say,
to be in that
Outlaw
group.
stole my baby. He stole it.
And he's just upset because I got it.
It hurts
first.
a little. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
And
okay.
speaking of programmers being opinionated people, it's hard to get 3 programmers to agree on any one thing, let alone 5.
That's a good point.
Yeah. You should try designing a logo.
Yeah.
All right.
That's actually why Joe moved to Florida. He's like, I'm out of here.
Take it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start with the 5s.
All right. So my number 5 pick is called Simple Mind. And if you've ever heard of mind map software, it's really just a way to get your ideas out on a canvas. and it's really awesome. So I've had this on Android. I think I had it on my Windows phone maybe at one point, and I believe it's even on iOS, and you can buy the desktop version for Windows or Mac. And I think the prices are fairly reasonable. I want to say they're somewhere in the $30 ballpark. But here's what's beautiful about it. Even on the phone, it's such an elegant interface. Like literally you can say, all right, here's my idea. Let's say that you're thinking about writing a book, right? You can put the title of your book, and then you hit a plus button next to this thing, and it'll pop up a new bubble, and you type in your thing. And essentially what you'll have is this DNA looking strand where your ideas just kind of bubble out, right? And if nothing else, it's a great way to get your ideas out in front of you so that you can then start refining and putting detail to it, right? And it's a fantastic tool. It's free on Android. They might have a paid version if you want to be able to sync with your desktop app. But overall, great tool. Love it. And so that's my number 5.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Like when I grew up, we did something similar in school called brainstorming. And I've used Mind Mapper, this sort of thing before. And I just don't understand why they call it mind mapping instead of brainstorming.
Well, I think the difference is because brainstorming was usually more coming up with a bunch of different ideas that aren't necessarily connected, right? Usually, I mean, it depends on the context of it. Whereas a mind map is more, all right, you have this central theme, and how do you want to get all these pieces branching out from it? That's the only difference. Now, it's probably the same exact thing in theory. I mean, yeah.
It sounds like the difference is lines.
It might be. Like, it's connecting things, right? I mean, brainstorming was literally just scribbling down everything you could think of on a sheet of paper, if I remember correctly.
I would do it like one circle in the middle, and then you kind of like draw little circles off of it, and then those circles would have subcircles, and you would reorganize. So to me, it's like basically the same thing.
That is a mind map. Yeah,
I think
that
he
is a
just
mind
described
map.
a Venn diagram.
No, not quite.
No,
But
mine had more lines.
Oh,
More
that is a
circles.
mind map. Oh, there are some cool ones. There was one on Windows Phone that was amazing. I think it was called Mind 2000 or something. But what was so sweet about it is when you click in it, it was all done in
so is that one your number 5 pick, or is
No, it's not. But it was really cool because it was made in Silverlight because Windows Phone would run Silverlight. You click in it and it would like zoom you into this thing. and
it was just the
bubbles.
animation between
Yeah,
them.
it was the animations. It was totally didn't really matter, but it was really cool.
All right, so
Oh, wait.
for
One more thing real quick. Gotta say, I just had to Google this because it was driving me crazy. And luckily someone asked this exact same question on Yahoo Answers.
Oh, well then, I'm
Yeah,
sure
let's
that
know
the
kind of
first
people that
answer
are,
must
having
be
these kind of thoughts. But I'd like to read you guys the worst answer.
no. First off,
let's
the
hear
best answer is probably you have cancer.
Well, that's interesting. All right, so, what's the worst answer there, Joe? I'm
It's
curious.
probably you have cancer.
Well, mind mapping is a system used for better memory, and brainstorm is a breakthrough idea, I think.
That's ridiculous.
So now that we've got that cleared up, we can move on.
Thanks for doing that.
How is Babby formed?
All right.
All right, so one down for me.
All right. So my number 5 pick is a browser plugin called uBlock Origin. And what this works for Chrome and for Firefox. And what it allows you to do is with this plugin installed, any websites you go to, it will block resources from third-party domains, so that you can avoid all of those stupid tracking scripts and tracking pixels that are trying to get downloaded. And the real benefit of having it though is because as a result of not downloading those things, then all of these pages just seem so much snappier. Because you're not downloading as much crap and you're not running as much JavaScript as a result. And so you just automatically see the page like it was meant to be.
Isn't this the one that like Leo's always talking about? Leo and oh, come on. What's his name?
I'm gonna sit here and wait and watch you sweat it.
Now.
Yeah, Security Now.
Steve Gibson.
Steve Gibson, thank you.
They are a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely been to sites on my phone to where like literally the page loads and you go to scroll and you sit there and watch it try to do something.
I was a convert because initially, like, I would hear them talk about it and I was just like, that's probably, like whatever. I'm not really into like blocking stuff. But then I started trying it. I got curious. I was like, let me just try this thing. See, like, how crazy is it, right? And yeah, the performance of it is so like night and day, man. Like okay, I'll go right now. I'll go to CNN, and on the homepage of CNN, it just blocked 18 requests.
Holy smokes!
Right? Like, you know, I mean, it's insane. Like, I could go to, you know, let's see, Weather Channel. I found there was another one where it was a really heavy one this weekend. I can't remember what it was now. It might have been like a, I think it was like a Wall Street Journal. Let's try that. So if I go to Wall Street Journal right now, the Weather Channel, by the way, blocked 15. Weather Channel, I'm sorry, Wall Street Journal blocked 28.
Wow,
I got you beat. 32 on Yahoo Answers.
really?
Yep.
Well, that was probably all the answers.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you think that's not that much, but there have been, I think, iMore had a stat where he was talking about like how much a difference it made in the download, you know, the overall page size that was downloaded, and the difference that it made in the load times for all of that, and I mean, it's significant. So, you know, it's a little thing that'll actually make your browsing snappier, even if you are already on a really nice computer with a really nice connection. It'll make it even better.
A side benefit too is if it's blocking all that JavaScripty stuff, it'll probably also save you some battery life as well, like quite a bit, because a lot of these just churn on your page because they're all doing set timeouts, and you know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of feel like a jerk doing it, but yeah, just the performance just makes it too good to pass up.
So you're both using it? You're using it, Joe?
I use a slightly different one, AdBlock Plus, but I know that's kind of controversial. So.
Yeah, AdBlock Plus though, they actually, like, you can pay to be in their approved list though, right?
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, I have sites that, you know, run off ads and I don't make bank from them. You know, they barely pay for themselves, if at all. And so, you know, I get the importance of ads, but yeah, you know, I can't be sitting there waiting for 5 seconds for a website to load when I don't have to.
Right.
Like, he's like, I can't be bothered.
Sorry.
Nobody got time for
I
that.
got stuff to do, man. I need to see my content now.
Yo, I got to know the top 10 actors who, you know, whatever, married their stunt doubles.
Wow.
Wow.
Awesome.
All right.
So what's yours, Joe? What's your number 5 pick?
Mine is Gliffy. It's a tool from Atlassian that's used for like just simple wireframes and stuff like that. I've used a couple over the years, but this one's just kind of my favorite, and I really like the Atlassian color scheme, so that's my pick.
Yeah, for anyone who's never used it, you know, you described it as for wireframes. I would actually describe it more like a Visio in a browser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Is how I would define it.
Yeah, you can do
So,
flow
yeah.
charts, diagrams, form mocks, all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff.
Yep, I don't love how the way the like custom images works. You kind of have to upload them, and it just seems a little jerky.
But the cool
I
thing
like it.
about Gliffy though is that you know, when you're done, so you have all this documentation, and if you're using, obviously if you're using this, then you're probably using other Atlassian products such as Confluence, and so now you have your Gliffy diagram in your Confluence wiki document, and you can easily export that out as a PDF or a Word doc or however you want, and it'll format nicely and knows how to take care of it. So yeah, it's a nice little add-in.
One of the cool things, though, is you can actually do this for free on their site. Yep. You don't even have to be a member of the Atlassian suite, which is pretty killer because it's not a cheap suite of tools if you're going to, you know.
I feel like I need a little rubber ducky, so every time you say something crazy, I could just be like, what?
What? We need some sort of squeaky doll or something.
Yeah. All right. And then the 4s. So my number 4 would be .NET Fiddle. That is been like, well, I really come to enjoy it because, like, if I want to do, and that's .NET by the way. But sometimes I might want to just take my Mac and not have to worry about booting into a boot camp or running a VM to do any kind of C#, but maybe there's something small or maybe not so small that I want to like just experiment with and play around with in, you know, C#, and .NET Fiddle, .NET, or, you know, gives me that option, gives me that ability to do it. And so I really enjoy that site. So Fiddle everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've even used that for some of the code samples on our site, right? Maybe not. I know I have.
I think No, because I think the plugin that we use on the site, I've used that more, but I am trying to get away from using that and start using things like .NET Fiddle for that.
Because you can see the code live. You can actually run it, which is nice.
I mean, the plugin that we're talking about is Crayon, yeah. And it allows you to do some really nice highlighting features, and that's why I've used that to date. So,
yeah, it's pretty good. Well, speaking of online things, I am a recent convert to Office 365, and the deal is that I've used it for work. I've used Office forever, but it's not exactly the kind of thing that I would get excited about. But now that I can get it for $9.99 a month, it's just been kind of a no-brainer. That's how much I was paying for Dropbox, and both of them give me 1 terabyte of basically the same service. But now I have Outlook and PowerPoint and all this other stuff that makes dealing with those doc files and XLSXs a little less painful.
Yeah, you missed out on the unlimited storage option there, Joe. Sorry.
I don't I have hardly anything to store. I've got like 100 gigabytes up there.
No. Well, there for a while, like Microsoft kept upping the amount of storage until it eventually got to 1 terabyte, and then they said unlimited, but then they realized people were totally abusing it and backing up entire PCs to their OneDrive account, so they decided they would scale it back down to 1 terabyte.
Yeah, but that's still a decent amount of storage for anybody, so...
Yeah, and the OneDrive feature, because I also use Office 365 as well, and I really like the OneDrive feature where everything's just automatically backed up. I don't have to really think about it, when it works, that is.
Yep, and the rules in Outlook are really nice. So I like a lot of email rules, and I like having them kind of shared amongst my various accounts. So it makes it pretty easy to kind of copy those around.
Awesome. All right, so my number 4 pick, and I actually feel kind of bad for it being this low on the list for how good it really is Codecademy.com. I think I'd mentioned way earlier in the year that I took a Ruby class on there, and it's an interactive learning tool, and it's really done well. I mean, they make it kind of fun. It steps you through things. It's expecting inputs and outputs and all that. And I learned a lot about Ruby and its, language fundamentals and its structure and all that by getting to go through this course. And it was free. The fact that there are tools out there like this for free are just amazing. So, it should probably be higher in my list, and it's only because of some other things on my list that it's not, but a fantastic tool.
So before we get into the threes then, because earlier before we started even going with the fives, you'd mentioned about the resolutions and like how well we've each done with the resolutions. And so here I find it kind of humorous because Ruby was like on my list of resolutions and you used your new pick for my resolution that I didn't do.
I felt like somebody needed to get one of your resolutions done.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, no, that's not fair because one of my resolutions was not to take 15 minutes, like getting my character class ready in Call of Duty, but what it was though, one of them was to more socialing, and I think I did all right with that. Maybe not the most of anybody, but hey, between the three of us, I have vined more than the two of you.
You've definitely not turned into PewDiePie or anything like that. But
you mean Cutie Pie?
No, Pewdie, the guy on the YouTube guy, right?
I thought it was Cutie Pie.
No, the number one earner on YouTube.
Yeah, the gamer.
PewDiePie.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
PEW. Yeah, man, you need to up your hipster game.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm off.
Yeah. That is a little.
So how are you doing on your resolutions then? Since we're gonna like out me on my rails, then
I don't even remember what my resolutions were.
I think one of them might have been
a course.
Yeah.
I've actually started that. The problem is I've started like 4 different ones, and that's the issue, right? I'm a typical programmer. I have like ADD out the wazoo. It's pretty bad. So
you had, do you want to know what yours were? I just happen to have the page up.
You happen to.
Coincidentally. Well, because I had it open for, so I could read Nicholas's question about the ReSharper renaming.
Okay.
And so you had to create a course to teach others and at least one blog post or video every month.
Ooh. Yeah, I think I'm like 1 out of 6 for if we're gonna do ratios. I'm probably 1/6 of
Joe?
the blog video.
Do you recall yours, Joe?
No.
Okay, so then I guess you don't know how well you're doing.
Wah, wah.
One of yours was to stop whining about JavaScript.
Oh, I had a strong start on that one.
And
The first couple days were pretty easy.
and then you also had to write more functional or reactive programs.
I am very reactionary in my coding, I will say. I don't do anything until it's too late.
I don't think that's what you meant. And then you went for the extra gold because Alan and I only had 2 and you went for 3. So you had stop saving things to the desktop and to be more organized, at least
Oh,
digitally.
man. I started really well on that. And actually, the temp folder thing that I was doing, which is kind of weird, but it's actually worked out really well. I keep a temp folder and I kind of drop all my stuff that would normally be on the desktop there. But I know that everything in my temp folder can be deleted at any time. Like I never put anything there that can't be deleted.
That's interesting.
I feel like he renamed desktop to temp.
Yeah. Except that on my desktop, there were, there are things that I don't want to delete. There are things that I download or move or I'm working with. And so now by having a temp folder.
For 2016, I can break you of this habit because I'm kind of like the opposite. Like anything that is on my desktop is trash. It's trashable if it's on my desktop, including shortcuts, especially shortcuts. If you're creating a program and you are writing the installer for that program and you think you're doing someone a favor by putting a shortcut on their desktop, know that I will delete that like immediately. I hate those. But here's my way to break that habit is use your Office 365. And if you want everything to be synced up, then it needs to be in your OneDrive folder. So you just start saving things to there so that it gets synced up to your cloud account and you're done.
That's pretty nice.
Well, I'm bad with a lot of like screenshots and stuff. I'll take a screenshot, save it to the desktop temporarily, and I don't need that, after I email it.
Well, that's a prime example of something that would get trashed immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget about them. But you know what? I will say on the making blogs and videos, I have made some pretty good videos. I think they're on YouTube.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I haven't made enough.
Yeah, but so I'm definitely the major Vine socialer between the three of us. You're the YouTuber socialer between the three of us. I guess Joe would win the Twitter award between the three of us because he doesn't make typos like Codsmell.
Man, that's ridiculous. I attempted.
I thought you were talking about Call of Duty when you tweeted that, by the way.
So horrible.
I was like, Call of Duty smell.
All my tweets are kind of 2 tweets because I go onto my personal account and then retweet or favorite it and vice versa. So
Well, that's what
it's
you
kind
got.
of like every one is 2 actions.
Isn't that what you do? I mean, that's how you do Twitter. Twitter's like madness.
All right, so let's get on to the threes. These are your third favorite pick.
Yeah, and this is where I start salivating because these are the things that I'm like really excited about. And for me, this one's a guilty pleasure. jQuery injection. This is a Chrome plugin that will insert jQuery into any web page. So this one actually, I have this on my wife's computer too. Like she'll go to check out or something from a website, and there'll be a JavaScript error, and the mask won't go away. So I open up Chrome tools. I'll delete the mask so I can access the elements underneath. And I'll kind of poke around.
Do the same thing.
And I pop in jQuery to help me kind of like search around for stuff rather than trying to look through the source code. So if I'm looking for like button, I'll be like, jQuery, the $sign, get me all the button elements. I find the one I need. And I'll actually fix kind of websites so she can like check out or I can check out or do whatever.
That kind of scares me a little.
I know, and I also do it for sign-up forms sometimes. Like if the button's grayed out, I'll just go ahead and enable it and skip the form, and it works so often it's silly.
Yeah, totally.
So I guess Joe's resolution for 2015 about stop whining about JavaScript, he's won that one since he's like finding new ways to use JavaScript where someone may not have intended him to.
I'm a little confused though. Like, dude, riddle me this.
What are you, the Riddler now? Speak to us, Batman.
If you were on a website where you're trying to buy something and the site doesn't work.
Yeah, it's a
you
little
think
risky,
it's a
right?
good idea to go ahead
Yeah, man.
and force a checkout?
Shove money in their face.
Hey, man, I support mom and pop websites.
Oh, good Lord. That's amazing. Like, if
Now he says he supports them. Do you then tell them what the problem was and what the fix was?
Oh,
Do you
no.
write them a Jira ticket?
I try all sorts of crap up. There was an event I was trying to sign up for, and I knew it was going to sell out. It's actually Dice Tower Con, it's a board gaming convention, and so I'm like, well, the tickets don't go on sale till tomorrow, but there's this other event that's on sale now. What if I kind of look at what they do for the one that's on sale now, change some URLs around, change the IDs, and maybe I can go buy my tickets early? Didn't work, but I'm always trying crap like that. That doesn't work. And,
Oh, dude.
this plugin helps.
dude, I totally did this on Facebook at one point. It wanted my real login information. I was like, oh no, and you're not having that, because I didn't want it knowing everything about me, even though it already did. So I did the same thing, and I was able to log in and register and do something that I shouldn't have been able to do. And it made things really weird from there on out for that account.
You might break your account forever.
Yeah, I think I did actually, but yeah, I've totally done stuff like that. But let that be a note to everybody listening. If you do web programming,
Don't take no for an answer.
if you put things in your UI that you think are going to force people to do things properly, you need to enforce all that on your server as well, because people like us will try to do things that should not be done. And there are lots of ways that people can get around. So you need to make sure that you're enforcing your
I feel like
business
this
rules.
is in that like ethical hacking kind of scenario, like like maybe loosely kind of, because you're like kind of hacking around in it to make something work. You're
Right.
not hacking it to break it or anything.
Yeah.
Right. But enabling something that was masked or disabled, like that's definitely and
You
it's
know,
not
I mean,
trying
they're
to-
already teasing you, so you're just unteasing.
But make sure you enforce your business rules on the server. If you're trying to do something on your client, just understand that people have access to those.
All right.
So my number 3 thing, and this is going the hardware route. So as we all do, you have a wireless router that, after about 5 years decides it's going to start dying on you, right? And when I was looking, there were only a few that were top runners, and I ended up getting the Netgear R7000 router. And this is, I think, I don't even remember what the speed is. It's like 20 something.
All the speed.
It's fast.
It's
enough.
all the megabits.
So here was the thing. It really came down to the Apple Airport Extreme and this one. And the reason why I love this one is actually a couple fold. One, it reaches everywhere in my house. It's the only router I've ever had in my house that reaches every room in my house. And I have it on the bottom floor. And I live in a split level, so I have 3 floors. The bottom floor reaches all the way to my top rooms, and I have a great signal. That's huge. The second thing is, since I've installed this, I've never had to restart it. Like, I've had this thing up for a few months now, and it just works. And that is fantastic. I can't even explain how much I love that. And then the third thing, and I haven't done this yet, but this is ultimately the reason why I went with this router over the Airport Extreme, was you can actually put a third-party hardware on or firmware on it,
Tomato.
like either Tomato or WDDRT or whatever it is, DDWRT. And the only reason I'm considering that is to be able to put things on certain subnets, so that if I want guests to get onto a network, they can be on their own subnet.
Oh, so it doesn't already have its own guest networking built
They
into it.
have a guest network, but it looks like it talks to your regular network, which seems kind of ridiculous. It's more of being able to just give them a guest password so they don't have your regular one. And it also will do your what's it called, the backup, the Time Machine backup. So you could actually hook up a drive to it, and it will do the regular Apple stuff, which most other routers won't do other than an Apple one. So love that wireless router. I use it all the time, everywhere in my house, and it is just rock solid. And that is the reason why I went with that, even over some of the newer ones, simply because its stability is just incredible.
Yeah, I don't remember because like some of the, I think DDWRT has the feature for the automatic updates, right? Doesn't it? I think it feels
Similar to the Google one.
Yeah. If not, I thought I heard something about like it was coming or something. Like maybe I have that
Maybe.
wrong.
I don't know.
Because that's one reason that I would like that, like to have an open firmware like that, is just the ability that it can just automatically update.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but I'm probably not far from making the switch. Like I said, it has a ton of features, right? Like even if you wanted to do certain logging, if you wanted it like VPN services, if you subscribe to like a Pro XPN or something, I think it's built into where you can have that thing run all your traffic through it. Like
Right.
there's a ton of features, but I haven't done them yet. But again, just a fantastic piece of hardware.
All right, so here's my number 3, and I use this one all the time. I really like this. This is an iOS app. Well, let's just say it's an app. It's available for iOS and Android, and it's called Hours Tracker. I specifically like the iOS version over the Android version. I've used both, and it just felt like the features came to iOS before they came to Android, so the Android version was just kind of behind. But if you have to keep track of your time, particularly if you travel or if you travel to clients or maybe you work on multiple clients, like this is a nice little utility that you can use to check in your time to work on particular projects. And it has nice little features like geofencing. So like as you get to a location, it can remind you like, hey, do you need to check in? And you can actually control like how big a radius do you want that geofence to be. You can tag different times. So like maybe you have some hours that you've already invoiced your client for. So you could tag those as invoiced. And then when they pay you, you can tag them as paid. So within the app, you can keep track of all of that. And you can easily like filter through that and see all of that, within the app, to sort through like, what you want, which hours you want to view, within the, from like the notification, it can tell you like when you reach a certain hour limit. So like if you want to say, hey, once I've reached 8 hours, tell me that I've reached that 8 hours, maybe you're on a fixed, time limit, for a particular customer, you can, set that. You can set what the rates are for that particular client. So, if you have multiple clients and each of them have different rates, then you can say like, hey, for this job, it's this rate. And then when you check in for that, it's keeping a running tally of not just the cumulative time, but also the cumulative, billable dollar amounts.
How much is this app?
Free.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the really great thing. So, and like you can round the times off if you want to. So you can say like, hey, if I check in, just round it, to the nearest 15-minute or whatever, you wanted to do, or no rounding at all. You can tell it like which clients have, what their work weeks are for a particular client, what the, what's considered overtime for a particular client, or if there is overtime, all that kind of thing. And then if any one of those, like if you check in, if you clock in right within the app and then make a mistake, like you can go in, undo the clock in, or you can go back and edit things as you need to. Maybe you clocked in for the wrong client by accident. You can come back and fix that.
Or
It's
you
real
forget to
easy.
clock out.
All of this can be exported too. So
Nice.
You're done and you're like, hey, I don't want to lose all this. Let me export. So you could say export the last month to a CVS file and email it to myself, or export the entire thing export the entire database by emailing me the database so that I have a copy of it. You can do all that. There are some add-on features that you have, that you can, in-app purchase to pay for. So I think geofencing might have been one. There's another one that is definitely a paid feature, is the ability to use like, again, if you're on iOS, to use iCloud as like a backup resource. I believe that whole database of all your hours and clients can be backed up to your iCloud account. It's just a really full featured, great app. And if you're, let's say that here's an example. So like you go in and you started your day in the morning, you leave in the evening, and you're like, oh man, I forgot to check out for lunch. But for a fact that, let's say it was from 12 to 1, you could just go in and say like, add a lunch break, and it'll just say like, oh, okay, fine, 12 to 1, boom. And it'll add that lunch break in for you. And you can shuffle that around if you need to, but it's just a very well thought out and very polished iOS app with a lot of full features for a little money, like very little at all. And that's if you even want those paid for app features, and you can find it at hourstrackerapp.com, and I love it.
Very cool.
Aren't you scared to see what you'll end up with?
What do you mean?
Be like,
How many hours
you know,
worked?
like on way, it's like, oh man, I worked 60 hours last week. Or it could be like, oh man, I played 60 hours with Call of Duty last week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely a lot of weeks where I'm like, holy crap, I put in a lot of time. But I kind of like knowing that, because it kind of keeps me on my toes. Like even if you can't bill all of those hours, right? Which is often, a lot of times the case, at least in my experience, is that, not all, you can't always bill that. I still like to be able to know, just for my own peace of mind, like, yeah, last week was really hectic, and here's why. I can see here that this is why.
Right.
But if you are able to bill all those hours, then hey, amazing.
And it'll make it easy for you to track.
Yeah. And you got like this really nice, database of all your time.
All right. Hey guys, it's Joe asking you to leave us a review. We really appreciate it. And reviews are actually pretty much our only way of finding new listeners. So we really love it when you guys do that. And plus it puts a smile on our face. So please leave us a review.
Is it in that order? Is it the smile, or is it the the finding other listeners? I think it might be both. I don't know.
It's the only thing that makes me smile.
Wow.
I guess I really got to get better at the socialing too, so that we could, find, so that more listeners could find us in other ways too.
Yes.
Yeah. Reviews and interfaces. That's it.
This episode is sponsored by Infragistics. The Internet of Things, mobility, and connected systems are driving the need for big data solutions that are imperative to help your users and customers make better decisions faster than ever before. Experts in data visualization, Infragistics developer tools drive custom app development for any data visualization scenario on any platform, and Report Plus is an enterprise-ready, self-service BI dashboard solution that opens up your enterprise big data for end-user consumption. Go to www.infragistics.com and check out for your free trial today.
All right, so let's get on to the twos.
Yes. So I tried to sneak this one into all our favorites, but somebody kept deleting it. So
Not me.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
it's now my number 2 is Snagit. Now, Snagit's pretty fantastic
God bless you.
for what it is. A Snagit. It's a utility that is available for both Windows and Mac, and it is great for screenshotting and marking up the screenshot or taking little videos. So it's not as full featured as like ScreenFlow, which was one of my choices for last year. If you need to take a little video to show people in your organization or shoot something off to your manager to show them how things are working, it is a great way to be able to just record your screen, speak over it while you're doing it, and then send it off. It doesn't allow you to go in and edit your videos or anything like that, but if it's just a fast one-off, it's fantastic. The markup tools are excellent, and it's pretty inexpensive. I want to say it's regularly like $50 on Windows and Mac. Like buying the license, I think gets it for both. I may be wrong on that. I'll have to go back and check. But when I upgraded Parallels this last year, they were offering a bundle, and this is for anybody that does use Parallels for Mac. Every Thanksgiving around Black Friday or Cyber Monday, they offer some sort of crazy deal, a bundle of software with it. So I was able to update Parallels to whatever the next version was for $40, and I basically got this and 7 other pieces of software along with it. Love the tool. I use it every day, and it is a fantastic little piece of software.
Yeah, you snagged this one for me. I actually forgot that I bought this. Like, I didn't realize that I paid like a lot of money for it. I mean, I'm happy about it, but man, it's expensive, but I use this absolutely multiple times a day, and it's fantastic, and it keeps you out of paint.
It really does, yeah. And that's huge, right? And I mean, would you agree? Like the markup tools are just fantastic. They're so easy to use.
Yep. My only gripe with it is that you can't really go back and, at least I don't know how to go back and edit things that you've done before. So like if I took a screenshot and, added a couple text bubbles and some arrows and I saved it, it saves it as, basically an image or some other file format. I can't like go back, to something I did yesterday and, fix a typo. I have to like kind of redo that screenshot.
Interesting. I haven't run across that. I'll have to try next time and see what works. But yeah, I mean, it's a great tool.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
All right, so my number 2, it's funny because we just did the Tools for Developers show and we haven't mentioned, I've never mentioned this one before, but it dawned on me like this is definitely one of my absolute favorite things. I love this thing. It is the bag that I use to carry my laptop in. Right? Like everybody needs a nice one. And you see a lot of people, like often, I remember like Targus was one that you would see a lot of people have those bags, but I eventually got tired of those things. Like they just always seemed to break down and didn't last as long. And so I decided like, you know what? I'm going to treat this like as you would any other piece of luggage. I'm going to get a nice piece of luggage for it. So I got a Briggs & Riley backpack called the Verb. And I have had this thing now for, man, it is going on 10 years. And to look at it, it doesn't even look 10 years old. And they still sell this laptop, this bag, although the current version is a more updated version of it, but it's still, if you were to go look for a Briggs & Riley Verb, they still sell a version of it. And it is a fantastic bag and it is guaranteed for life. If there's any problem with it, they will fix it. No questions asked. They will fix it. If something needs to be restitched on it, then they will. I remember like when I first got it, there was some stitching that needed to be redone and they took care of it and that was it. I haven't had a problem with it since. And I've used this thing daily. And like one of my favorite things, one of the reasons why I picked this bag over alternatives was that, especially if you're a road warrior, if you're traveling a lot and you're constantly on a plane, one of the things that I liked about this is that it had the slip through pass for the handle of your main suitcase, right? Your carry-on luggage suitcase, to where this could slide down the handle of that, and you only have to pull that one suitcase, and you're pulling both bags, and it was made to do that. Unlike sometimes you might be able to just stretch out the one handle, right, to make it hold on to that. Your rolly cart handle, but this one you don't have to do that. It's made for it. It's purposely built for that, and it's got nice support. Nice cushions on it. Nice little pockets here and there for your keys or for a set of headphones, or nice padding for your laptop, or a little mouse pocket and things like that. Like I've been a fan of it. It's not now since this version came out. They started releasing like the TSA approved ones where they'll like fold open completely. This is not one of those, but it's definitely one of my favorites. And again, a big part of it was because I like the way it holds onto your other suitcase, right?
So the interesting thing is, like the Targus ones that you're mentioning, it's not uncommon for those things to be about $70 or $80. This thing's about 200, a little bit more, a hair over.
210.
But the fact that it's got a lifetime guarantee on it, I mean, that's almost enough right there you never have to buy another one, right?
Yeah, I'm not kidding, man. That bag, you look at that bag right now. Does that look like a 10-year-old bag?
No, it looks great. Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and you keep these things forever. I've had my Targus since 2007.
Yeah, I think I've had mine longer, and it doesn't look as good as his bag does. It's held up pretty well, but it's not as pretty. And
I want to know.
Go ahead.
I want to know if Outlaw, if you would have bought this bag if it was white or red. Like, how much did the all black motif influence your decision here?
Well, it's not all black though. It's got an orange interior.
But you never see that unless it's open.
Well, no, like all the accents on it are orange. So like all the threading on it is orange.
Oh yeah, they are.
There's a one I'm looking at. It's the Verb, but it's all black and gray.
It is. This is the Verb. but it is the exterior is black, but
I
it
see the
does
orange.
have a lot of orange accents on it. In the interior of the current one that they show on the website, the interior is all gray. On
Right.
mine, the interior is all orange. And if you were to
Okay.
go to the Briggs and Riley website, you would recognize why, because their theme is their color is orange, and so that
Right.
this piece of luggage is playing off of that. You're making a comment about the color. Honestly, like when I was looking at this bag, it was down between this one and oh man, the name just eluded me right as I went to go say it. It starts with a T. Big luggage manufacturer.
No idea. I never. You used to travel a lot, so you know a lot more about this stuff.
Oh man, it's killing me that I can't remember the name of that.
Hey, why is Yoda such a good gardener?
I don't know.
Because he has a green thumb.
Toomey is the nice. Toomey is the one that I was trying to remember. I was originally down to like a Toomey bag or this bag, and again, those are both brands that, like, if you travel, right? If you have to travel, then these are brands that you are very familiar with. You know that these are nice pieces of luggage that are going to last you, because you want a good, strong, sturdy zipper that's going to stand the test of time, because that's typically what's going to break first, right? There are going to be the things like the zippers or the wheels, and a lot of other pieces of luggage that might be less expensive. They can get the big piece of cloth. They can make that strong, but then they'll break at the seams and everything. And with Toomey and Briggs and Riley, like, those are brands that you're not going to have that problem with. And so I was down between those two brands when I was originally shopping for this, but the Toomey didn't have the lifetime guarantee that the Briggs and Riley did, and so that's why I went with it. And it really wasn't about the color as much as Joe would like to lead you to believe.
Well, it's a good thing it wasn't seafoam green. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it probably would not have been one of my picks if it was seafoam green. If we're
I'm
being
giving you a hard
honest.
time, but if you guys haven't figured it out by now, I mean, if he spends 15 minutes on his Call of Duty character, you've got to know that Outlaw researches. He does his homework. So I just added this to my wish list.
You probably won't find a better bag for the money.
I believe it.
Awesome.
Sold.
So what's your
All right,
number
so-
2?
My number 2 is the AutoTune app. No,
His album will be out in iTunes.
yeah, the T-Painifier.
Is he talking about bacon and the burger with strength?
That's right. I've got to go with the Fitbit here. So there's a couple different varieties, but I use the kind that kind of slips into your pocket, because I always bang stuff up on my wrist, and I got to leave a spot for my non-existent iWatch.
You better not bang stuff on that wrist. We saw the stitches you have on your hand.
Oh,
That looks
yeah, I
painful.
know. Yeah, Frankenstein. But the Fitbit's great because I can pull it out and it doubles as a clock. But I like that I can see my steps every day, and so it's so easy when you're working, on a computer all day, to not realize just how bad you're doing. So I know that there's days when I'm tired and I get off work, and especially I live at home, so like, bathroom, kitchen, office.
Did you just say you
repeat.
live at home?
Yeah, sorry. I work at home.
Some of us
So
do live at home.
There's days when
I guess in all
like,
fairness, if you travel, then you don't live at home.
yeah, true. I'll look at this thing and it'd be like, oh, I've got 2,700 steps, and you should, the goal they tell you is around 10,000 a day. So I know that even though I'm tired and I just want to eat some pizza, that I should probably take the dog for a really long walk instead. And so it's really good about kind of encouraging me and making me kind of, or at least gamifying that kind of aspect of my life, and trying to stay a little bit more mobile.
That's pretty nice. I didn't even know they had a pocket one.
That's the original, man. That's where they started.
Yeah, I never really paid much attention to it.
Like all the watchy ones, those are the newer versions.
Huh. Very cool.
Yep.
All right. So let's get into the number one picks. So my number one pick that Alan so desperately wanted to steal from me
That he took because he set up the
is
document first.
WebStorm. So if you have to do JavaScript and you don't want a big heavy IDE, I have really become fond of WebStorm because it has some really great features. It's basically like we've talked about ReSharper in the past and all the niceties that it brings to Visual Studio and C#. This is basically like ReSharper for JavaScript. There's so many great little tools in there. I think it was last episode that I talked about the ability to do find in path and replace in path text searches. Nice refactoring abilities built into it. And then there's third-party plugins for it, so there's a nice ecosystem for that. It's a really well thought out, very nice product. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, he stole that one from me.
Yeah.
I really do love WebStorm. I use it all the time.
Yeah, we heart JetBrains. If you guys haven't figured it out already.
Yeah, you know what? Did I mention on the podcast previously, or just to you guys privately? I don't remember. If you've purchased a product from JetBrains, if you go in and look at your download page or whatever, and you go and look at the upgrade, they were doing at least through the beginning of next year, like a special to where you could upgrade to their all products package for like 2 years for $200.
You're talking about the subscription.
The subscription. Right? So right now I don't have a subscription to JetBrains, but I might do it because with this, if you paid $200, at least in the link I had, then I would have access to every one of their products for $200 for a 2-year period, which basically would give you IntelliJ, WebStorm, PHP Storm, probably the new database thing that
DataGrip.
Yeah, DataGrip. I mean, it is an absolutely killer deal, and it gives you ReSharper.cover, like everything. It's a killer deal. So less than the price of just paying for ReSharper, you could have all their tools for like a 2-year period.
Yeah, I think they're calling that the JetBrains Toolbox, right? Is that right?
I don't remember.
No, that doesn't sound right.
I don't remember.
They did change their licensing model, though. I do recall that.
Yeah, you can buy yearly subscriptions now, like a lot of places are going to, because, I mean, it makes sense for these companies, right? Because if you just have to buy a one-off and you have to keep paying $200 a year, you're probably going to skip a version or two because you're going to be like, there's really nothing in that next one. But if you can pay a little bit less and they can keep you as a subscriber for years on end, then they're going to make more money over the long run. So, yeah.
And they can afford to roll out smaller updates too. So they can just kind of continuously add features rather than doing these big, waterfall-y kind of releases.
Yep. So, all right, what's yours? What's your number one?
I'm surprised we haven't mentioned this before. Spotify. It's I think it's $12.99 a month. I might do the family plan for $17.99 a month dollars. And it's just awesome to be able to search and find playlists by other people and all sorts of artists. Like I own a ton of music and I've bought all sorts of music over different services over the years, but I don't want to have to mess around with where those files are and what apps are installed. I like there's one spot I can go to and get just about everything but Tool and Taylor Swift. And if I feel like an acoustic morning, I do it. Or my favorite for programming is actually Deep Focus, so I'll have a link for that. But it's just so amazing to be able to kind of listen to what you want, when you want to, just off a quick search rather than having to dig through and figure out where all your bot music is.
That's interesting that we haven't mentioned that because I know I use it. I'm a subscriber. You know what I like about it as much as anything else is the fact that it's on the PS3, the PS4, Xbox One, phones, tablets, computer. Like you can basically use it anywhere. I mean, that alone makes that application worth the $9 a month or whatever I pay for it because I can listen to music wherever I am anytime I want.
Yep. And now if I want to listen to, And Justice for All, I don't have to, go looking for the tape or the CD or iTunes or Amazon or I don't have to remember which service I bought it through.
Right.
I can just search and, Black is the Earth.
Wait, on Spotify though? I thought they didn't have Metallica.
Do they have?
I'm going to have to check. I also do have all of their albums on Amazon, so I might be getting mixed up.
I'm not sure.
Because, as you do, you have all of the Metallica albums.
Yeah.
That's just a requirement, right?
Yeah,
So-
all the stuff that kind of makes me hate them.
The one them not having Tool on there is a little bothersome, but I guess who has time for a 20-minute song?
Nope, they've got it.
They do have it.
Yep.
Man.
I guess Alan's searching foo isn't as strong as yours.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible apparently. All right, so I guess that's down to my number one pick. And this has just become a bit of an infatuation with me this year, is Meteor.js. Like, we've talked about it a few times on the show before. They've just done such an excellent job of bringing a single development environment together that takes care of the server, the client, like live refreshes. It's just, it is such an excellent job of bringing a framework together that is easy to start with and easy to write an application with, that it's fantastic. Like, if you ever wanted to just try and prototype something and you wanted to kind of learn how to do some web stuff, Meteor.js is a fantastic place to start. The only thing that I'm not crazy about is its complete tying to MongoDB. And that's not necessarily because I don't like Mongo. It's more got to do with the GPL licensing with it and the fact that you are tied completely to a NoSQL database. But throw that aside, like, it is probably one of the most complete and easiest to understand frameworks I've seen. And I've worked in a lot. Like, you can, as a brand new person, you could get something up and running fairly quickly, like a couple days with this. I've been playing with React.js. I've done Angular. I've done all these things. Dude, a lot of these things take a lot of time and investment and knowledge to get anything working the way that you want it to. Meteor.js isn't that way. Like, literally,
with all the popularity Angular has, it is not like that.
Oh, dude, Angular. I mean, you did your review thing where you were aggregating reviews for our site. Yeah, Angular.js is a mind bender. And there's so many hidden things that you just don't know about to make performance better and all that. Dude, Meteor.js is just so easy to get up and running with that it's truly an amazing piece of software and a framework that they put together. So that's my number one pick. But
I feel like it's also kind of more though than a React or a
Absolutely.
Angular. And that's where it gets like, it feels weird to make a comparison of Meteor to one of those because it's such a larger thing.
If the one thing that you'll notice when you start playing with any kind of JavaScript frameworks, especially for front end UI type stuff, like React, we were talking about this the other day. For as popular as it is, it provides not a ton. Like, it's a very lightweight way to create components for your UI. Like, that's what it is. And it doesn't give you anything else on top of that. If you want any kind of data flows, then you're going to use Flux or some other, Reflux or one of the other 500 frameworks that popped up around it. If you're doing Angular, like there's a lot of knowledge, and it doesn't take care of your server. Like, Meteor.js is all of it. And it's really well organized. Like, your client code, you put it in a client folder, and by convention, it will know that this is your client code. So when it compiles it, like it does, it's funny when you play with React and these kind of things, you're going to set up your NPM, you're going to set up your Bowers, you're going to set up your gulp test, you're going to set up your local servers, you're going to set up all these things, right? And it's a decent amount of work and a lot of things to consume all at once. Meteor.js, you download it, you install it, you have a web server running because it loads it up for you. You have your database already there. You have your client framework already there. You have your server framework already there. And every time you make a change, as long as you ran your Meteor script, it compiles it for you and updates it on the fly. Your web page will update. Everything just works.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, part of what I was getting at too, though, is that, like, what also makes it an unfair comparison is that you can use Meteor and Angular together. You can use Meteor and React together. In fact, it's built into it. If you want to, you create an example to-do app using Angular, it's built into Meteor to create that to-do app, that Angular to-do app, or that React to-do app, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a layer of abstraction above this thing.
But it also includes its own thing. So you can use Angular or you can use React, but natively, I forget what it's called. They have their own templating engine, and it's like Fire or something, or Blaze maybe. I can't remember. But they have their own, so you don't even need those other ones. You can do it all with the package you download. What were you gonna
it
say,
is
Joe?
Blaze.
Blaze. Okay. What were you going to say, Joe?
Even the name Blaze. And you guys are messing with me. You just described Cold Fusion, but kind of coming from the other end.
No,
You got your own
wow.
little template language. It, you got your CF Ajax stuff.
Nah, but you
I
still
hate
had-
everything
Meteor
you need.
right now.
You just
I'm
install
sorry.
it, and then you just run it. And it'll take care of compiling and generating everything it needs to.
It'll
and you
do
just
everything
kinda slop the
for
files in and
you.
run.
No, you were totally making up half of this stuff.
So that's it. So Alan has to come up with a new number one favorite because we no longer like Meteor.
Wait, didn't you actually say there was a Cold Fusion conference this year?
Oh my god.
Yep, didn't see that one in the news, but I enjoyed my time in Cold Fusion. But
Hey, man.
yeah,
Cold
it's not something you probably want to learn if you're coming straight out of school. You know what I'm saying?
No, back in the day, it was fantastic, right? When everything was still new, when it was competing with ASP, dude, it was so much better. And if only they had chosen to go the route of making it cheaper, they may actually still have a foothold. But
And I'll say, if you wanted to query a database and throw it up on a page, man, there is no faster, easier way.
you're absolutely right. It was amazing, and it's unfortunate that it took the nosedive that it did. It's crazy. If it hadn't been so uber expensive, PHP wouldn't even exist.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna pour out some Diet Mountain Dew for that one.
I mean, talking about crazy conferences, I don't know that we talked about this one before, but there was the Git Merge 2015 conference for the Git community, which I'm assuming they're going to have another one this April. It was this past April in Paris. So, if you need an excuse to travel, and I'm assuming that they'll have another one in 2016, but I haven't seen anything for it. But I loved the name of it was Git Merge,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
That's a
Man,
great.
what a miserable conference to go to, though.
What?
I gotta think, can you imagine the talk's going to be like really advanced, merging techniques and all the crazy stuff you can do? Like, man, Git's crazy.
Oh,
to
you
do
mean
simple
the
stuff
things
with.
that you would actually use in your day to day?
Dude,
like,
Outlaw.
that sounds great.
Outlaw would be like a little 5-year-old at Disneyland, right? His eyes
Yeah.
would be big.
I'd probably be so excited I wouldn't be able to decide which talk to go to.
Do you think they have a GUI track and a console track?
Do I want to go to the bisect talk or do I want to go to the blame talk?
Oh my dear God!
The merge strategy?
Yep.
Like, all of these sound fantastic.
Actually, what they're
I'm actually sure I bet it's way more low level than that. It's probably
Yeah.
like, hey, if you're developing for Git,
this is what it would actually need to be, though. How to teach other people who don't understand source control what to do with Git. Because that's usually what the conversation devolves into anytime that you're working with people that don't understand source control.
Yep.
all right.
Yep.
So, on to the top 5 that we all agreed on and liked.
Except WebStorm
Yep.
should have been in here.
What? No.
I torpedoed it. I'm a negative Nancy.
He did.
All right. So, let's take us in number 5, Joe.
Gulp. So Gulp is kind of like a little. It reminds you a little bit like Ant, or if you've used any of the derivatives of Ant, it's basically a task runner, right? And you can define dependencies. So I can set up a little task called build, and that build might have a dependency on clean or bundling or compiling or all sorts of other stuff. And you set up these little tasks, and it figures out what needs to happen. And so what ends up happening is you're able to do a lot of orchestration via the command line. So I can do something like, go publish and generate my website, or, move files around, or do anything that's not even necessarily related to a build process.
Yeah, and the great thing about Gulp though is the collective resource of like third-party plugins that are available to this thing. If you go to gulpjs.com/plugins, right? There are at the moment 2,043 available plugins. So the chances are, if you have something crazy that you want to do, there's a good chance that someone has already created a plugin to do exactly that. You want to upload all your stuff to S3 after you're done? Guess what? There's already a plugin available for that. You want to minify all your images into more efficient, smaller versions, guess what? There's already a Gulp task or a Gulp plugin for that.
And if 2,000 plugins wasn't enough for you, you can go to npmjs.com and search for Gulp, and you'll have 9,973 results.
Yeah, and I don't get that.
Well, some of it you got to remember too, though. Some of it's probably written just for Node type stuff, right? That'd be my guess.
Maybe. But point is that like regardless of which place you go to, there's a plugin for that.
Yeah.
You want to minify your CSS, you want to minify your HTML, guess what? There's a plugin for that. You want to create markdown or documentation out of your JavaScript, guess what? There's a plugin for that.
And the reason why we went with Gulp over Grunt is because Grunt is very much configuration based, whereas Gulp is more, you write the code to do the things that you want it to do. And the other thing too is it's handled a little bit differently. You keep piping the output of one piece of functionality into another. So if you're going to like JavaScript minification and uglification would be a good way or a good task that you might do. And instead of opening up the file and then shrinking it all down and then saving the file and then opening the file back up, now uglifying that file, the way Gulp works is you might call the shrink first, and then you'd pipe that into the input of the uglification. So it keeps all that in a stream and keeps pushing it through until it ends up in its destination wherever you put it. So it's a very streamlined process. It's quite a bit faster than Grunt on a lot of tasks. The only thing you have to look out for is making sure you have enough memory or resources available to do those. Because if you're trying to do, hundreds of megabytes and you keep running it through all these pipes, then you might run into problems.
But I'd like that final destination source to be a zip file.
There it is.
Is there a plugin? Oh my God, there's a plugin for that.
And it's beautiful, right? Like this is more than just for only programming, right? You can use this to do all kinds of stuff. Like I think Joe said you did things with images like Photoshop or whatever. Like you can set up some Grunt tasks to do like a ton of cool stuff for you.
Yeah, and I actually I had some PowerShell scripts that I would use to basically resize images and move them to a folder and then delete, and it's just some minor stuff. But I converted that to a Gulp task. I haven't finished yet. But what I really liked about doing that too is by setting it up in this way, I could break this out easily into separate tasks that kind of behave like functions. So I could focus on just testing the move, or just testing the resize, or just testing the delete. And that's something I would normally do in like a PowerShell script by kind of like commenting out the parts I'm not focusing on right now, which is just kind of a silly way of doing things when we can break it apart like that.
Hey Joe,
Yeah.
do you like Docker? Guess what?
Yeah.
There's a Docker plugin.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So number 5, highly I would say that we like all of these very well, but this one just happened to fall to the bottom. So Gulp. The next one that we have that we can all get behind and don't use enough is NUnit. So we've talked about unit testing on the podcast a couple of times and the importance of it, both either whether you're doing TDD or just trying to create tests to support your application so that, moving forward, people don't break those. NUnit's fantastic. It's better than the built-in one with Microsoft's version, and Outlaws pointed out several of the reasons for it. We can probably go over it again real quick, but I mean, I think we can all agree that having unit test is vitally important to having a successful working non-regression application.
Yeah, so and for the Java developers out there, there's JUnit, which is very similar, and NUnit started off as being a port from JUnit to be a .NET version of it, but now they're it's been completely rewritten. They're separate, but regardless, JUnit and NUnit they're very similar, and don't use MS Test, I guess, is like the real takeaway. Even if you choose to not use NUnit, like I know that the three of us are big fans of NUnit, but it's definitely way above the capabilities of MS Test.
Parameterized tests.
That was the example I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Like, create one test and then have attributes mark on your method that pass in different parameters to test that same method, that unit test method with different data. I mean, that's a beautiful thing, right? Parameterized tests are a great example of something of why you should be using in-unit instead of MS test, right?
You know what? I was just thinking. For a while there, Microsoft was really pushing testing. You know, when they released MS Test, and they actually used to have features in Visual Studio where you could like select code and say right-click generate unit test. And they've really gotten away from a lot of that. And I feel like they just kind of stepped back and said, you know what, N unit, X unit, you guys just kind of do it better.
Yeah, and the beauty of it too is it plays nice with ReSharper. So if you, like me, are a fan of ReSharper and .cover, it plays well with both of those. Obviously that's a lot of orchestration, I'm sure, on JetBrains' parts to make that happen. But it's really nice that you can just see all that, use all of that in-unit framework ability, but then visualize it and execute it inside of .cover or ReSharper.
Yep. What's next on our list? We're moving on up to number 3.
So similar to one of my favorite picks is just plain JS Fiddle. So, again, if you want to be able to just create something and make it nice and shareable, like, I mean, who hasn't heard of JS Fiddle by now, right? It's so nice though that, regardless of what environment you're on, you can always have access to your fiddles. So you could create examples, you could share those examples with other people. Those people can then fork those examples, to create their own derivatives of it as they need. And all of this you can easily share, right? And be able to see see the code in its separate pieces, and then see the output or the result of that code in one nice place.
Yep. Something I do too often is I'll pop open a console to like essentially look up a JavaScript function. Like I'll be like, does JavaScript have a string.contains method? I forget. And so I'll kind of try to type it. It won't work. But what's nice about JS Fiddle is, for me, the kind of the value add over the console is that I can pick from a lot of really well-known JavaScript frameworks, and it'll, import that file for me. And also I can, take it and then share it.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of drives me a little bit crazy about JS Fiddle, and I wanted to point it out, is I don't think you can create separate files. Like some of the Fiddle frameworks out there will allow you to create like file 1, 2, 3, 4, so that you can kind of structure it like you would if you were doing the application on your own desktop or something. And that was the only thing that ever seemed to like really drive me a little bit mad about theirs.
Yeah, because it's broken apart into like separate like tabs, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Or sections. Yep. Yeah, you got your HTML, your JavaScript, your results, and your CSS. And there's nothing wrong with it. The only thing that I don't like about it is you can't really simulate or show somebody. Like the whole point of Fiddles is usually to demonstrate something. And what this takes away is the ability to demonstrate how you might structure things, right?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of flat in its... you're going to get one CSS file, you're going to get one JavaScript file, and you're going to get one HTML file. Do with those three things as best you can, right? So that is the one downside if you got to be, a negative Nelly about it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Thanks, Debbie Downer.
But it is an excellent resource. There's other ones out there, but this one's been around for a while and it works well.
Yeah, can't argue with the results.
Yep.
All right, so moving on to number 2. We've mentioned this book several times, and it's never made it into our tools episodes. So now it's time for the Design Patterns, the Gang of 4 book that we've referenced so often.
We liked this book so much, we gave it away.
Yeah,
right.
we got rid of it. We shipped it out the door. We were done with it.
Yeah, I think I've actually purchased this book 3 times now.
Honestly, is there any other resource that you can get as much useful information out of other than this book? Maybe like just really improving code, right? Like this is one of the best resources out there.
Yeah, and one thing that when I first got this book many years ago, I would kind of read the description of the problem and try to think like how I would solve it, and then I go on to read about how they did it, and they would kind of take this common problem and they would take the solution that you would kind of like the no-brainer or kind of a common approach that you might come up with, and then they would really take it to the next level by tweaking your kind of what might have been your initial thoughts on it to make it better. Basically, kind of using their years of experience to really round out the patterns and just kind of polish them up and provide nice, stable examples of things that you can take and use in other places, and people will know exactly what you're doing when you call something a factory or a builder or whatnot.
And the most amazing thing about this book, this is still the first printing.
Was it the first?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
They got the book so right the first time they didn't even have to make a correction.
And this has been what, almost, is it 20 or 30 years ago? It's
I
been
think it was the 80s.
Yeah, it's I mean,
Nah, I thought it was the 90s.
Let's see here. IMDb for books.
I don't know. We've talked about it before. It was definitely a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it really...
It came out in 1994.
I think it helps people think. So 23 years. That's or no
21.
21 years. Wow, it's about to be 22.
Man, math and calendars are not your thing.
They aren't, right? What it helps people do more than just seeing patterns, thinking algorithmically about how they do their code, right? Instead of just, hey, let me bang out my code and go from A to Z procedurally, it helps them think about, hey, how can I make this thing to where it's kind of pluggable, right? And I don't know.
Well, pluggable. I mean, but I'd be careful about the way you described it algorithmically, though, because then that kind of leads one to think, like, in terms of algorithmic complexity, right?
No, not complexity, just steps, because that's all an algorithm. We talked about it before. It's like a recipe, right? So you think about things as opposed to, instead of just, hey, let me do steps A through Z procedurally, let me think about how I could break that out to where if this needs to be expanded in the future, it just kind of fits, right?
Yeah.
But
it's not going to get into Big O.
No, not Big O.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And actually, if you go to the website and go to /tags and /design patterns, you'll see all the episodes that we've done on various design patterns. And actually, the first one we did, we talked quite a bit about the differences between design patterns and algorithms. And there's actually some really great comments in those episodes if you're curious.
Yep. And so now our number one pick, and because we all use it pretty much every day, Slack. Slack is actually a great tool, and it's free if you don't want to pay for being able to search through archives and that kind of stuff. It is a fantastic way to collaborate with people on projects if you're not in the same spot. Even if you are in the same room, like, it could be a great way to share a screenshot or communicate with an entire team. I know that the way that we use it, we'll do it for sharing a screenshot, maybe with a markup, or notifying everybody with an @everyone or an @channel that, hey, we're getting ready to shut down or restart a server, right? Anybody have any objections? Everybody will get notified either via their Slack notification or an email or whatever. The other thing is we integrate it into like Visual Studio Online so that if you update a branch that you're watching in that channel, everybody will get notified. Hey, you just merged some code into this branch or whatever. So
in my effort to be more social, I'd like to mention codingblocks.slack.com.
Yes. The only
You
thing
want to
is,
interact with us?
yeah.
There's another channel.
Now, I'm not certain how we do this. Does everybody have to request to...
I don't know how this is going to work.
So, in fairness...
Because there's also like a paid subscription version of Slack too. So there's the free and then there's the paid. And so I'm like, how's this going to work? But, I definitely, we'll throw it out there. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
More opportunities for all of us, to be able to interact together. So even the listeners to be able to interact with each other. So we're going to give this a shot, give it a go, see how it works out. codingblocks.slack.com.
Yeah, and I don't know how you're going to sign up. It may be something to where you have to send us your email and we set you up an account. I'm not sure how this works yet. Again, we're going to figure it out as we go. So, if you guys want to be a part of this, please do contact us either through Twitter, private message, email us at comments at it. But, we would love to see where this thing takes off or goes. So,
And you can watch me Giphy crazy things.
and if you don't know what
Yes.
Giphy is, it's amazing.
You're going to love it.
And really, when I say that you'll watch me Giphy crazy things, it's really more that I'm gonna like ask Slack to Giphy something that's not so crazy, and then it's gonna go off and do something totally wacky
Yes.
but awesome
I'll-
at the same
Like
time.
slash Giphy space awesome. And you'll end up with like Will Smith on fire, being shot out of cannon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's awesome.
It's very random, but
Yeah,
it's a
so-
lot of fun.
So I just did Giphy awesome, and it looks like there's this animation. It looks like it's supposed to be like a Bill Gates costume. Somebody in like supposed to look like Bill Gates from the '80s, and him and his friend doing a crazy dance. So it's amazing.
Awesome.
So if for no other reason, you should use Slack just for the entertainment value.
Yeah, that is very random. So yeah, I think we can all agree this really is. So I think there was an article that even came out that said the biggest time waster is Slack. And okay,
So true.
let's be honest, right? Anytime you have any kind of chat application that people use, there's going to be a certain amount of time waste. But it's no different than idle office chat that you would run into if you're, typically if you're in an office environment, people are going to stop by with a random conversation and eat up 15 minutes of your time. It's no different. It's entertaining, gives you a nice mental break from what you're doing sometimes. So
Yeah, I mean the beauty of it though is totally. I mean the integrations. I mean
Yes.
we just joked about some of the craziness that Giphy will do, but there's also like other integrations that you could do. Like for example, if you use Visual Studio Online, well now it's Visual Studio Team Services. There's integrations with that so that like as commits are made, you could post a message out to a Slack channel.
I might have just said that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but I think you were busy Giphy and you're awesome.
Oh man, I totally am busted. Holy awesome! How do I Giphy busted?
Yeah.
Let's see what Giphy busted comes up with.
Yeah, so I'm looking at some of the ones in here right now. Like they have a ton of integrations. Man, they have payments and accounting stuff, project management, social and fun, HR, marketing, file management, developer tools like we just talked about. Like there are so many plugins that are available. Like I think there's even Salesforce plugins for this thing. It's pretty extensive. So
Yeah, and actually, it's funny that you mentioned the accounting app thing because I just read an article and listened to MS Div Show podcast that interviewed the person who wrote it, talking about how they this company moved away from doing mobile apps because for basically expensing stuff because it was hard to get traction with people. They didn't really want to interact with their phone in this way. So they kind of pivoted and changed their app into a Slack bot. And what they found is it was much more successful because people were already in Slack doing this sort of thing. And so it was just kind of easy for them to message the bot and say, here's a receipt.
very
So
cool.
we'll have a link to that.
Very cool. Yeah, so definitely, again, please come join our channel. Have some fun. We'll have some code talk. We'll have some random talk. We'll have whatever talks people want to have.
Yeah, and this thing is really cool. Like, you can have custom integrations into it. So, like, let's say if you use Visual Studio Online, then oh, did you already cover that?
We might have.
Whoops.
It's Groundhog Day.
All right. So number one, Slack. That was it for the things that we all like.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've covered, 20 things? How about that? Hey, my math isn't completely terrible.
All right. So, in the resources we like section,
Yep, I got one book here. The author actually reached out to us about possibly doing an interview, but we, as you guys have probably noticed, we just don't really do that sort of thing. But the book looked awesome, so I went ahead and bought it and started reading it. And it's Beyond Legacy Code: 9 Practices to Extend the Life and Value of Your Software. And I kind of feel like I spend much more time wrestling with legacy code than I do almost anything else. Certainly much more than implementing design patterns or coming up with new algorithms. So I definitely think it's a good thing to kind of be knowledgeable about. So I wanted to share that with you guys.
I mean, let's be realistic. When have you ever seen a job for a developer where they said, hey, what we want you to do is come in on day one. You're going to write something brand new from the ground up. Nobody else has started it yet. It's all you.
Yeah.
Go.
We have no opinions. We have no ideas. You get to do whatever you want.
Even I don't care what it is. Even if it was something that was only started 3 months ago, if you just start on it, that 3-month-old code is legacy to you.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And when's the last time you worked on code that wasn't just broke all to heck?
Oh, dude, I never do.
All right. Well, we got to get into Alan's favorite section here. This is the tip of the week.
This is the tip of the. Hey, we're actually getting closer to the week thing, right? Like this will be like third, fourth.
Oh man,
episode.
don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
So our next episode will be coming to you in 3 months. All right. So my tip of the week is actually programmableweb.com. And it's pretty interesting. When I was looking for like little projects to do in my ADD state of being, I was looking for APIs like, hey, how can I do something that people will actually get something useful out of? Because a lot of the tutorials that you see out there are like, okay, let's pretend that you're doing an AJAX call out to somewhere and that you have to wait on a response. And I was like, man, I hate this pretending stuff because there's so many things that go differently when you're working with real live latency, right? So I started looking around and there's this programmable web thing and they show you all kinds of tons of APIs that are available. And if you go to the link that I have there, that we'll have in the show notes, one of the cool things is they'll show you what are the top APIs that people use or search for. And you can actually go and either sign up or just use these things freely. So it's really cool. If you want some data to be able to program like a project with or something, this will give you a list of APIs that you can just go out there and use. So,
yeah, I mean, examples to what Alan's describing here, just on the top when I went to the link, Google Maps, Twitter, YouTube, Flickr, Facebook. That's just the top 5 that are in there. Right. So like these are all APIs that are real, that are available right now, that if you got some idea that you wanted to write some code with, but you just don't want to use a fake API, here you go.
Yep. Really cool stuff.
I think NASA's got some cool ones too. So you could make a little app for like wallpaper of the day or something using some of their images.
Very cool.
Yeah. So for mine, I wanted to mention Indigo Studio. Now I mentioned Gliffy as one of my one of my favorite tools, and it is. But I was kind of looking for something that was a little bit more advanced. And full disclosure, Infragistics is a sponsor of this episode and many other episodes. But I legitimately was searching for rapid prototyping tools and came across it and gave it a trial, gave it a shot, and I actually really liked it. And it's kind of like wireframing on steroids. So some of the things that I really liked about it is had really like kind of complex abilities for my wireframe. So I could say like if you swipe here, or if you touch, or you tap, or you hover, then show this pick instead of that one, or navigate to this spot. And rather than something like Gliffy, where I kind of my output is either a link or a PDF or an image or something like that, this generates HTML. So I can actually save like a little website, and someone will link, and they can actually kind of click around, and it's got some basic support for some kind of basic memory type stuff, and is also really nice for supporting different resolutions. So it's basically got support for being responsive, I should have said. So if I can shrink my resolution down on my window, I'll actually see how these things kind of pop into place for something like a tablet or a phone. And that's just the kind of stuff that you're never going to get with a static image. So I thought it was really cool. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with it, so I didn't want to say it was one of my favorite tools, obviously. But if you're looking for a rapid prototyping tool, there's some pretty awesome stuff out there.
All right. So, for my tip of the week, we've talked in great detail about how we love our large monitors and how awesome they are for development. Except here's the one thing that, first world problem with that is that the mouse is so itty bitty and you lose it on these giant, great big monitors. So, with the release of El Capitan, one of the features that they actually mentioned in the keynote was the ability to find the mouse when you've lost it on the screen by just jiggling the mouse back and forth, and the mouse automatically, dynamically grows in size so that you can easily see it, and then it shrinks back. But if you're on a Windows environment, it doesn't do that. But Windows has had this feature built into it for quite a while now. So you can go into or a similar feature, where you can go into the control panel, into the mouse properties, right? And click on the pointer options. And there on the bottom is a selection that by default is not checked. And it says show location of pointer when I press the control key. So when you lose your mouse on that 34-inch widescreen monitor, you just press your control and then a circle will radiate around the mouse and help you find it. Now, I usually end up, bang on that control key several times until I see it, but eventually I'll see it. Ultimately, I like the El Capitan version better because the mouse is, a little bit more, in action maybe might be the way to rephrase that, versus the circle that Windows does is a little bit smaller, but hey, it's better than nothing, especially when you've lost your mouse and you're like, oh my God, where'd it go? But it being the Christmas, Star Wars season, I thought, hey, you know what? I've actually got a couple other ones that I should mention too. So we've talked about SQL formatting in the past, and I don't know that we've ever talked about this tool though. We've talked about the poor man's T-SQL formatter for Notepad++ in previous episodes. But there's this really nice, if you want to stay within SQL Server Management Studio, there's a really nice free plugin by Apex SQL called Refactor that you can install and plug into it, and it will it'll offer you three different options. There'll be like a format SQL button drop down, and it'll have three different options of ways that it could format your SQL, and it'll also have some other. It'll also provide some other buttons. So if you want to, oh shoot, what was it? If you have any unused variables, then it'll find those and remove those from your script. Or if you want everything to be properly sourced, then it'll fully qualify everything. It'll find all the tables and everything and fully qualify them if they haven't already been. So it's got some really nice capabilities in it. Full disclosure, that fully qualified feature will take a moment because it'll actually go looking through the schema to find out what's what as part of it. So it does take a moment. But just from the formatting point of view, what I really liked about it is just the consistency. Like, that's one of the most frustrating things is when it comes to SQL is like people have their own formatting preferences and some have no preferences. And so, sometimes you just want like some order in the world. And so it's nice to be able to stay inside of your SQL Server Management Studio environment and reformat that.
Is it out of beta now? Because I used that thing.
Yeah, it's out of beta.
Back in the day, and I uninstalled it because formatting complex queries, like not just a single query, but like let's say that you had a stored procedure that was doing temp tables and all kinds of stuff. If you'd format it, it would actually erase half of your code. And I, like, about the third time it happened to me, and I slung my keyboard across the room, I was like, okay, it's gone. I can't take it anymore. But that's been a couple of years ago, in all fairness.
So I haven't ran into that scenario. I've definitely had, I guess it depends on your idea of what you call a crazy table or query. Definitely with nested queries and things like that. Like, I haven't run into any problems yet with it. But hey, your mileage may vary. I don't know. And in keeping with the Star Wars theme, the last one that I wanted to talk about here was use the Force.
Force touch.
So, no, actually, and I'm surprised you've never talked about this. We've talked about a couple episodes back. We did a lot of, I think it was like episode 13, 14, maybe. Maybe someone can check that for me. I don't know. Maybe I can check it. There was we talked about database, queries and whatnot, and I believe during one of those conversations we talked about using a no lock option. Right, I think we've discussed this before.
A sequel hint.
Right, that it was, and specifically that it's only a hint. Right, but there's this other great hint that you might want to use, which is called force seek. So let's say that you're doing a query and you look at your execution plan and you see where it does an index scan, but you know that you have an index on that and you think it'd be more efficient that it just seek it. Then you can provide another hint, which is called force seek, to hopefully tweak some extra performance out of your SQL query. So it would look something like, select star from table with force seek, right? And it was pointed out to me, and I thought, oh man, that's an amazing little option that I hadn't ever noticed before or ran across, and so I thought I'd share it.
Very cool.
And wait a second. How are you going to mention Star Wars and sequel and not mention use the index, Luke? This site has got great information on SQL indexes and it's Oracle, Postgres, all sorts. It's got quizzes to see how much you really know. It's just a fantastic little site here. And because SQL never freaking changes, even though this is many years old, it's all 100% up to date.
That's not true. They've added windowed functions and various things over the years.
Talk to me about dynamic sorting.
They've introduced one thing, according to Alan.
Well, dynamic sorting, nobody actually uses that, Joe.
And paging?
Nobody uses that.
Wait, didn't you have a tip last episode about paging?
I'm just saying.
All right. Well, okay. So just for clarification, it was episode 13 and 14 where we talked about everything database related that we had to talk about at that time.
That was also that second. I believe the second of those two was the one where I lost my voice. Totally.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Maybe where Froggy comes out to speak.
Yeah, it was a little rough. So
good times.
Yep.
All right, so that's it for this episode. So we hope you like this iteration of our favorite non-overlapping tools, and you can check out www.codingblocks.net/episode 21 to hear other stuff that we really like with no overlap
from last year. Yeah.
Yep, and we'll be back just as soon as Outlaw finishes his second class setup in Call of Duty.
Oh my god!
With our next episode. So
that don't put that, because then people are gonna really think that I'm taking that long. They're like, hey, why haven't we got our next episode out?
It's totally that.
It's totally Michael's fault because he's still setting up his class for Call of Duty, and it doesn't even matter because we already need to turn it off.
Yep, that's true.
All right. Well, hey, subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and more using your favorite podcast app. And be sure to go on to either iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you prefer to get your podcasts and leave us a review. And if it's not iTunes or Stitcher, be sure to let us know. We would like to know some of these other places that you're finding us.
Yep. Contact us with any question or topic and leave your name and preferred method of shout out. We'll mention you on the podcast. And visit us at codingblocks.net, where you'll find all our show notes, examples, discussions, and more. And this episode specifically will be www.codingblocks.net/episode 37.
And we want to hear your feedback and questions and your rants. So send us a message at comments@codingblocks.net and follow us on Twitter @codingblocks.
All right. And don't forget our Slack channel.
Yes.
codingblocks.slack.com.
Yep. Come join us and let's have fun. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.